good news built in, but TSMC is pretty much king of the world. One of the things that we've seen recently with the Intel ouster was the fact that I think Intel doesn't really, or rather is uncertain of its foundry future. Now it really looks like there is only one leading edge logic provider in the entire world, and that's TSMC. Samsung isn't even in this conversation, and I think even though it's had quite a rip year to date, it's a pretty good place to be at the top. There pretty much is no other competitive technology out there. And so even though that it's been up quite a bit, I think this company is growing 30% revenue year over year, has all-time high ROEs, is starting to hit new cycle high gross margins, and there is no other company in the world that can execute quite at their scale and at their profitability.
Doug, having said that, the tariff writing has been on the wall for quite some time now. So how has TSMC de-risked and diversified their supply chain, and how resilient are they to another tariff episode and quite possibly a trade war?
So the trade war question is a pretty hard one to answer. Frankly, we're not sure how tariffs will roll out, but specifically for semiconductors, it's a meaningful part of the AI smartphone. A lot of the leading American companies are extremely reliant on TSMC. That being said, one of their biggest bargaining chips is leading edge capacity in America. The Arizona plant recently has become a big part of the news cycle as they've actually been able to achieve better than Taiwanese yields in the Arizona plant. However, that's not a leading edge factor anymore. It's mostly primarily used for 4 nanometer. And what's going to happen is that TSMC wants to continue to have its most bleeding edge chip made in Taiwan and will not export that until, let's say, a few years later. So that's the biggest bargaining card that I think that Taiwan and TSMC have. And as tariffs roll in, I think being the only one with the technology is a pretty good hand to play. And so that's probably their counterpoint. Maybe they're willing to make more leading edge capacity in the United States in order to not have tariffs or in some kind of deal for TSMC and Taiwan.
Reshoring. Doug, so 65% market share, you can't sniff at that. It makes it the top dog in the global pure play wafer foundry business. Is that an unassailable position? And what does TSM have to do to ensure that it stays that way, ensure that the moat is wide and deep?
Yeah, at this point in time, pretty much they're the only one left. I think it's pretty much up to their execution or their lack of, and so far they have never missed a node. I would be really shocked to see them maybe fall behind. Intel is the moonshot that is trying to take over their leading pole position for 18A and potentially 14A nodes. The reality is there is no real volume there, and Intel is begging for the scraps of Western companies looking to reshore chips. The primary node and the primary customer for all of the fabless leading semiconductor companies like AMD and NVIDIA is always going to likely be TSMC. TSMC's execution and monopsony, I mean, it's a monopsony now, or there really isn't competition in the leading edge, is only been getting stronger in the last 18 months. Despite many competitors trying to close that gap. So I don't really see anything in the near term. Maybe some trade war or geopolitical things could change that equation, but it's not going to be TSMC's execution that leaves them behind.